Well, all right. So
I'm Brad.
We'll start with introductions.
Hi, Bradley.
So Brad, Matt,
I'm Matt.
Ian, and we're kind of gonna just chat about what our experiences were with the 48-hour film project. We're in the Minneapolis 48-hour film project this last weekend, June 4th, 3rd through 5th, and some of the things we found that were useful. Maybe we'll cover kind of how we went through our process and how we got to where we ended up, and then what regrets we have with.
No regrets.
I regret working with Matt.
Brad, please leave.
I'll see myself out.
So, yeah, we're pretty much. We started out the weekend by. I guess we'll start there. We'll start on what we did, and then we'll go into
what we could do better,
we've done or learned during the process. So,
yes.
So I guess and jump in whenever you guys have something. But
This was our 4th year, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
It was
so we've done this a number of times.
2012
and
was the first one? 2012 was the first one,
that'd be
right?
4 years ago.
Yeah.
What year is it? I don't even. I can't do math or tell where I am.
So yeah, it's been a couple years since we've started doing this, and we've learned quite a bit on the way, and even just doing it after the first year, we learned quite a bit. So what we started out doing though this year was, I guess even preparing before the 48, we met with our core group, which was Matt, Brad, and I, and then we went and we sent out emails and kind of got feelers out for actors and actresses, and we put together a couple of scripts that were just from films or whatever, and kind of anonymized them so that they weren't actors and actresses wouldn't be encouraged to act as those characters from the films, because then we kind of get more of the way that they would read a script.
This was specifically for readings, of course.
Yes, right. So we were going to be doing readings ahead of the 48 to get an idea of who we had in terms of actors for range, and then whether they would play well off each other, whether they took direction well, which was very important. So we went and did that, and then we kind of had our list of actors and actresses going into the weekend. We didn't make any decisions beforehand. Friday night rolls around, and the 48... Oh,
which was, from what I've seen and from what I've heard from this year, what made us kind of unique. Because pretty much every other team picks their cast of actors and then they write roles for those actors rather than select them the night of. So I think we're the only team, maybe the only team, or at least one of the few that did that type of approach.
Right.
So what you're saying is we're a real team. We followed the rules.
Or we suck.
Or
So
we just planned poorly.
So there's a little bit of, I guess...
There's pros and cons to either one of them.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of, I guess, I don't know, some teams maybe go a little bit too far with the preparation part. They might be, I guess I don't know the exact rules for that, but some teams, I think, get a little ahead of themselves and, look for things that it almost seems like they're fitting
their ideas
characters
into
the
genre that they pull.
Yeah, and actors and actresses into a script instead of kind of the other way around, which I guess I see it as the other way around makes the whole thing more challenging and more interesting. So
It's kind of like Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. Like, you can do it her way. It's kind of it's not technically wrong. It's just like
we got political all of a sudden.
It's just
out of the blue.
I'm sorry. Let's continue. But you get the
fitting
point.
for the day that's today.
You get the point.
Anyways, it's June 7th, so
Which is Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday, June 7th, 2016.
Hear that, Brad? 2016.
That's what year it is.
I don't even remember my
4
own
years ago
name
was
half the time.
2012
Okay,
From Jumanji.
what year is it?
You look kind of
So let's go back to what we did on Friday night. So we kind of prepped with getting all these actors together and having an idea of who we had in our I don't know what you say, cabinet or whatever we have.
Tool set.
Cabinet?
Well,
Arsenal.
I don't know, arsenal, sure. I mean, I don't know what you would
Our
say in terms
cabinet?
of I don't know, you know,
Tool
like
shed.
collection or something. I don't know what the
Toy
proper
bin.
terminology.
We opened our drawers and we just
Yeah.
chose actors out of
Wait,
the drawers, like
dresser
like they were
drawers
pairs of
or
socks.
like drawers under my jeans?
No, let's.
I opened up my drawers.
How about we steer this podcast back in the right direction? So. Oh. All right. So we started out Friday night by getting the genre and like with all 48s, you get the genre, you get a character, you get a line of dialogue and a prop. So we got horror or family film,
Which they didn't let us choose two, and I have a big beef with that. They didn't let us choose two separate ones. They grouped it together. So we got to pick one, and it had two genres on it, which I think is bull.
Well, the one way that it would be the equivalent, because the way they set it up was that we were going to pull one genre from two different hats right away
that's
in
how it
each
should have
group.
been.
The way, if they had printed off a slip for every single combination, every permutation of the genres, then it technically would have been the same thing. But
that's true.
But at the same time, statistically, it's technically different because in one case you're drawing from two pools, and the other case you're technically
they
drawing.
chose.
The
but
odds
also,
are different, but the number of possibilities are the same.
But also, they wouldn't have done that because the likelihood of more than one group drawing the same genre would have been far greater. So they wouldn't have done that because they don't want. There will be multiple versions of horror in each group or across all groups, but there will not be. I don't think that they allow for more than one group to get the same genre or one team to get the same genre within a group. So we were in Group C.
Right. Well, that's how
so-
they always do it.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. So if they'd done horror plus all the permutations of it plus another genre, then there'd be the opportunity for them to get everyone with horror or something within that group.
Yeah.
So I think the way that they did it, it makes sense despite the fact that we don't like the way it turned out for us. I think horror and family film are kind of polar opposites almost. So you can definitely merge them, which we talked about a little bit, but it's one of those things where I think that they had to pick a lesser evil, and I think that this solution probably was a decent one. I would tend to agree that if they'd done the draw one from each hat or something like that, it could have turned out a little nicer. But
I mean, they had like 20 in each group, right? In each quote-unquote hat. So the chances of people getting the same thing are like...
Well, they wouldn't have, because what it should have been, from what I understood, was a combination of this new rule, and it's still partially the old rule where there was one slip for each genre in each hat.
Oh, and then you take it off.
And so, and they specifically said, they on the website listed out which genres were in which hat for each drawing, so nobody from each screening group was going to pull the same. There was going to be no overlap either way.
That's fine.
It's just it kind of took away some of the I guess excitement in a way that I got this one. All right, what's my next choice going to be? It's just you pull up one and it was like, nope, you got this forced on you.
I just feel controlled by it.
A little bit.
That's all. We didn't have a choice. We had one choice, and
we got hosed.
And we got hosed hard. Anyways, moving on.
We'll see how that works out in the future too. This is the first year they've done it this way, and they kind of have been changing it in past years. So we'll see if they do it a little bit different in the future. But So that's how it worked out for us. We got horror or family film, and
We've
we
done
decided to go
horror
with
in the
horror.
past.
You've done the horror specific.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which
So
there's no genre. Is there any kind of subgenre drawing for that one?
Yes.
There was.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a subgenre. There's a bunch of different. There's thriller and all these.
Well, that's
I gotcha.
that's in the past.
yeah.
It's just a bummer to get family film and then
horror, which not my particularly favorite genre, with some exceptions.
So let's kind of go into what we started doing right after we got that information. So
Brad cried.
Yeah, we immediately were unsure, and it was kind of unclear before we drew our genres that we wouldn't have to choose and tell them what we wanted to actually pick as our genre until the end of the 48, which basically we decide what we want. We write a script and shoot the film and everything and edit it together, and then we turn it in, and then they ask us what genre we chose. And I'm sure on the front end they had that information recorded, so we couldn't just pick our own.
They wrote down both of our
right.
choices.
So,
they just had to include one or the other or both, basically.
Yeah. So we had to choose between horror and family film, and we just decided to go with horror because it was, I think we all, actually it was kind of determined based on the
ideas,
the outlines and the ideas we had. Because
granted, I was trying to stretch the interpretation of family film because, like, I made the point that pretty much everybody in my family is grown up and can drink alcohol now, so we can make it a pretty adult script without having to, it's whether you go with the classic family film means Disney appropriate,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so family film could have gone to a different level if we decided to go that way.
Well, I think we thought about family film because it has a lot more options. Like, you can literally do anything you want with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was the first thought we had was, like, if we want to make a horror family film, we can do that, but you can't, family film can be funny or dramatic or a thriller or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that was our first, and then we kind of just dropped that as we went into the ideas, and we're like, oh, these ideas are the best, and we ended up doing horror.
So we started the night out with getting the genre, and then we kind of all sat around, and we had six of us.
6 of us came up, and we probably came up with
five.
It was five of us.
Five of us.
Yeah.
30 ideas probably total.
So between all of us, I mean, I only came up with 2 ideas or whatever, but you guys all came up with plenty more.
It's the quality, not the quantity.
Yeah, right. One of my ideas got chosen as the film, so
you brag
I guess,
about it.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess
that's
good enough. But we had a good number of ideas, so we basically sat around and we each came up with our own ideas, kind of typed them up or wrote them down to ourselves, and then we gave ourselves 15 minutes to do that, and then at the end of the 15 minutes we started chatting about what we'd come up with. We kind of all went through our own ideas, and then discussion spurred off of those ideas. So someone would say, this is my idea, and then someone else would say, oh, you could do this with that, and that really, I think that kind of got everyone's interest in various ideas. You then start to build storylines on top of those ideas and say, okay, well, we could expand it in this way, or have these characters involved.
Yeah. The issue with that was we bounced so many ideas off of each other.
Narrowing them down was a bitch.
Well, it took forever.
Yeah, and so I think one of the problems with that process is really just that we didn't document any of it. So while it was great, we were going around and having everyone list off their ideas, we didn't have anyone taking notes on comments for those ideas. Because ideally we would probably do that, and this is kind of getting into what we talk about at the end, but I think that's one of the things that would have helped us a little bit to speed up that process, because it did take us quite a while to get an idea picked. And then once we had one chosen, we had to start writing the outline, and that got long too.
Yeah.
So So we kind of narrowed down the ideas to 4 ideas, and then we sat around and kind of looked at them all on a big screen and said, okay, this is what we want to look at, and what are the more plausible ideas, what's more difficult, okay, what are the pros and cons for trying to do these ideas, and what's required. So what kind of a set do we need, what kind of a how many people do we need, those kinds of things.
And those play a big part, because you can't have too many actors. The logistics of having so many actors and so many crew to plan that all out. I mean, we had 5 or 6 or 7 crew members, and we still sucked at planning. So if you have too many crew members and too many actresses, for a 48-hour film, it's not going to work very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had 7. I think we ended up with really 7 crew. But 2 of those crew ended up being actors as well. So yeah. I think we ended up counting 5 and 5 just to...
I think it was 10 people overall.
Yeah. So, so kind of what we did from there is we did end up picking an idea, and if you go to the 48-hour premiere, which is June 15th, I don't know if we're gonna post this or whatever before then, so we'll see. If you missed it, our film was I don't know. Does anyone want to give the background of the film? I don't like talking about it, but
it's your idea.
I don't like it.
Story about an evil magician that basically corners people, forces her tricks, quote unquote, down their throat, and inevitably makes them ask the question, "How'd you do that?" which was the required line of dialogue, which we said so many times that people are going to hate this movie for that alone.
And so maybe we should go back a little bit here too. So we said that we got a required genre, right? But we didn't say what the dialogue and everything was. So the character that was required was
Jenny or James Redondo.
Yeah.
Storyteller.
And
Storyteller.
And then the prop was grapes, and then the line dialogue was, "How did you do that?" or "How do you do that?" Depending on how you wanted to say it. But that was the only 2 combinations of that line you could use. And so, kind of the running theme in this plot was that we were going to say that line of dialogue a lot, by having that be the kind of trigger for this magic spell, or this we don't exactly explain that it's magic in the film, so I guess it could be interpreted in many different ways. It could be a device that's creating this,
It's very Stanley Kubrick-ish.
Yeah,
I
guess so. Yeah. And actually we added some sound effects in that. One of them was like a Rubik's Cube being like moved really quickly. That makes it sound almost kind of a mechanical sound as people get sucked into the other dimension. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting. It's not super obvious what it is, and I don't know that I even have an idea of what it is. But
I don't either.
Yeah.
I guess we didn't really think about that, but
no.
Kind of did, kind of didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. We just kind of roughly thought about it and then threw it in the film and hoped it worked.
Yeah. I think it does to a certain extent. I think.
Yeah. So, so we started writing the script. We started writing the outline first. Well, kind of both at the same time. Petter had started.
Problem number 1.
We started. Yeah, that was problem number 1. We started building the outline, brainstorming ideas, and we'd look over, and there's Petter typing away at a
and
dialogue.
Maybe we shouldn't be giving Petter a hard time on the thing. He's not here to defend himself, but
to his credit, I'm not very good at I can just sit down and write out a script. So when I looked over there, most of what I felt was jealousy that he was just sitting there writing something. I was like, how the fuck do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he was able to knock that script out really fast. I felt like that was done really quickly and pretty well. I mean, we did go through, so kind of continuing on this, so we finished the outline, right? So we did eventually, we kind of had Petter stop doing writing on the script side, and actually we finished the outline because that was really our requirement to get a script, was to get the outline done first, because it gave us points from A to B to C. How do we get through this story?
It's a good thing to have too, so we can send it out to the actors, actresses, so they know.
Yeah.
Like, the words are coming later, but here's your character.
And unfortunately, we actually didn't do that until we set the script out.
Yep.
And just to make sure that we actually had a story structure going on, rather than an incoherent blob.
But actually, the outline allowed us to start pulling in actors, right? So we got the outline written, and then we said, okay, well, we need these people for this. So let's start contacting actors and find out if they're available. And some actors came back and said, I'm available, but I'm only willing to join the team if there's going to be a guaranteed speaking role, and totally understandable. I mean, if they have their fingers in a couple different pots as far as potential to be on other teams where they're going to get a bigger role, I understand. So it's great that we were able to pull the people we did. I thought that the actors we had were great, except for the one in this room. No.
I have comments on that.
No. I think Brad, you did fine.
I did okay.
No, we all give each other a hard time here just because we're friends. But
some of us
I think Brad did well.
Matt's kind of a dick, but Ian, you're sometimes okay.
Yeah, I'm sometimes okay. Sure.
I'm trying to change myself, Bradley.
So, I think that went pretty well. I was glad we got the people we did, and I think from an acting perspective, I think the film turned out pretty well. I think there were a couple of lines that I still have some issue with in the script, but that was something I should have caught
from a writing standpoint or from an acting standpoint. Or both.
From a writing standpoint,
that was us. That's not the actors.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's on us not catching that.
We tried to tweak some of it as we went, and there was, I don't remember what it was, but there was a straight up logic flaw in a series of lines halfway through the script that one of the actresses pointed out to me, and I went, "Yep, we need to change that."
And we never did.
I don't think we did.
We did.
Oh, we did.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, I rearranged a couple of lines and moved this one up there and changed the word here, and then made sure that the next one technically followed that one logically.
Okay.
But yeah, we did.
Good.
But yeah, I think you can chop that up to 3 a.m. We're trying to review the final script and.
Yeah, right. So we got the script written, and then we kind of took it back to the full group. So Petter was writing the script, and so Calvin was also here at the house trying to do. He was doing the kind of idea creation, but also checking over the writing and things. So. Calvin reviewed
that out in record time too. I was kind of shocked how quickly.
So Petter was able to get the script done really quickly, and then he had, I think the first rough draft that he had Calvin review it and get comments from Calvin, and then he went back and did more on it, and then he brought it to the rest of the group, and we all sat around. We read through it once, but we were actually reading through it on a stop if you see something that needs to be fixed type basis. So
I do think that worked pretty well.
I think it did too,
because we had it in a Google extension, so not Google Docs, but so everybody could view it and edit it at the same time.
Well, I think the way we, in the end, started going through it worked, because originally we were just going through the Google Docs and just raising our hand I had an issue, which once we switched to that other program that we could all make our own comments. We could just go through, make our comments, and then we'd go through everybody's comments one by one.
It's called Yumi Script. It's super slick. You can have 5 people editing at the same time.
I think that was yumiscript.com, right?
Yes. Shameless plug. But yeah, that was super slick. So once we started to do that, that went pretty quick.
Yeah, yumiscript.com. Yeah. That's a Google Drive extension that allows you to.
It's also available in Firefox apparently, because I was able to just follow the link and loaded the script up right away.
Okay.
So
yeah, so that works, and we were able to just kind of go through the script a couple times, put comments in, comment verbally to each other about it, talk about it, discuss it,
Insult
and
each
then
other
quickly make
silently.
changes.
Putting in comments like Brad smells.
So we were able to quickly make comments and make changes, and then change the name of the script to Brad Smells. And then right before I sent the script out to all the actors at 5 a.m., I realized that the script was still titled Brad Smells. So I changed it to Void, which only was a temporary title until right before we exported the film.
Yeah, we probably should have just left it as Void. That probably would have been better than...
Yeah, so we ended up with our title being
Beyond
Magic.
Breaking Magic.
Beyond Magic. And we had discussed a couple other titles like Captive Audience and what was it, the other? Curiosity Kills.
Yeah.
Was one that Brad suggested. And I think that some of those titles are creepy a little bit, and I think some of them are... The Curiosity Kills one, I think the problem I had with that wasn't... People weren't dying. They weren't necessarily dying.
Yeah, you didn't know what happened to them, which and then it kind of took something, I don't want to say what, but it took something else away from, ultimately made something in the story not logically possible if they were dying.
Right.
So, yeah, no, that was a fair assessment, I think.
So we were able to kind of come up with that idea, get the outline of the script written, and then move on to sleeping. I think we all slept.
A couple hours.
We at least got a couple hours.
Yeah,
I think I got two.
Got two and a half.
Yeah.
I think I got 4.
Yeah, I was still shocked when I woke up to you going to your bedroom and it was light. I was like, Jesus fuck, what was he doing? Is it like 7 already?
Yeah, well, I was up really late writing the I was rearranging the outline and finishing up some other stuff on the script, and I really didn't change anything on the script, but I was really just changing some stuff on the outline so that we had an idea of how the flow and location and all that stuff would work out. And I sent that information out to the actors before morning, so that they'd be able to review the script before they showed up at our doorstep here and were ready to shoot. We also changed our initial start time, so we were expecting we kind of had a timeline set up from previous years' experience with this, and we had an expectation that we were going to be up and shooting at 7 a.m. Initially. I believe that was our timeline.
I think
that changed pretty
ready
quickly.
To shoot by about 8 a.m. at the latest. Was
well, I think part of the flexibility with that, at least this time, was stupid of us to think that we could. Well, we did pull it off.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Like, I was going to bring that up when we got to it.
We decided to film at night.
Yeah,
not just film at night, film over half the movie and the 4 most complicated scenes at night.
The most important scenes at night.
So our initial schedule, and I'll just run through this really quick, was like Friday night we were gonna show up at my house and at 6 p.m. or so and start getting things ready here, and then 7 p.m. we'd get the information for around 7:15, 7:30, somewhere in there. We'd get the line of dialogue, the prop, the character, and the genre, and then we'd start brainstorming and writing and everything like that. And at 9 p.m. we were supposed to notify the cast members of major roles. So anyone that we wanted to cast should have been notified by 9. That didn't happen until about 10:30, I think.
Pretty late. Yeah.
It was pretty late. But
nobody wanted to play casting director, so nobody was making quite a decision early enough either. So I sure as hell wasn't.
It's a problem with Minnesota people. We're too nice.
Yeah. So
some of us are.
So there's the downside to not having your cast determined already, right? Because if you knew, okay, we have these 3 people we need to cast, and we have a couple extras that are willing to just be available during Saturday, great. You know that you can write a script around it, and you're set to go. But if you have to notify those cast members in the evening, and we did tell them in advance to be checking email for notification from us around 9 o'clock. But if they don't get it until 10:30, they may not be really checking their email anymore.
So we kinda
we were
lucked
lucky
out.
that they responded pretty quickly. So and luckily for us too that one of them at least had said that she was waiting on a speaking role from either us or some other team, and we had a role for her that would work. So
So
were
we
able to
snagged
get
her up.
Yeah,
Yep.
that
Threw
kind
her over her shoulder
of
and
gave
went
us
on
the
our
courage to say, yeah, let's just tell her we have a role for
Yeah,
her.
yeah. Well, that was the thing. It was like we're gonna lose her if we don't go for it. So so we
Which
went for that. And,
Kind of reminds me of the other concern I had about this approach was that like I was kind of worried about if we were going to piss people off with like them waiting to hear from us, and then the night of we say, oh well, we don't need you, but thanks, and all of a sudden they don't get to act this weekend if they're not on another team.
We did
So it's-
make it very clear though of our intentions
Yeah,
or lack thereof. So I mean, if you did want to go that route, that's to pigeonhole yourself with 2 actors. Pigeonhole is a very strong word. That's fine, but I think as long as you make everybody understand that, hey, like we don't have a role. Like, go ahead, take another group. That's fine. Here's how we're doing it.
Right.
So as long as they know, I think that was fine.
yeah. I mean,
But
it worked out. I
to-
haven't heard anything from the other actors that didn't end up coming out to play, so I don't know if they had other teams to go work with or what. But
Yeah. I mean, and part of it too is doing the casting stuff. That's kind of a good networking opportunity, I think,
yeah,
too. So hopefully, if they don't hate us too much, we'll have other roles for them in the future.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're kind of digressing, but
Yeah, so jumping back into the schedule deal here, we had Saturday morning we were initially starting or expecting to send the script out as early as 2 a.m. And as late as 7 a.m. So we landed kind of right in the middle of that. I think 5 a.m. is pretty good. And then at 7 a.m. And I'm glad we didn't go on the far end of that, because 7 a.m. is when we originally planned on meeting at whatever our location was. We actually just determined to meet here, and from here drive to locations. So as Brad mentioned earlier, we had a kind of a decision during our outlining and everything that, and this was kind of by necessity out of the script and the story we chose, but to film most of the movie at night, and so we had 7 scenes total. 3 of them were filmed during the day, and 4 of them were at night.
the 4 at night were pretty long too.
Yeah,
It wasn't.
They were long.
It
and
wasn't even
the hardest
split.
to shoot,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of dialogue and a bunch of.
And I can only say that I'm super happy that we had 2 cameras on that, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I think that made it a lot faster.
Yeah.
So
we wake up at 7 o'clock, hop in the car with the actors and actresses.
well, we actually said the time to meet us was 9, so we waited a while. We had people meeting us here at around 9 o'clock, and then according to our initial timeline, we're supposed to begin shooting at 9, and be meeting at location at 7.
It's not moving.
It's fine.
Is it? It's not moving. It's been moving the whole time.
It's just moving in smaller increments.
Oh, because it's
Compressing.
So we're gonna break
Oh,
there
there it
and
is.
then we'll just start here.
and cut and begin.
So we started shooting at 9 a.m. and then we were kind of anticipating shooting for a good chunk of the day, but not necessarily. I think we planned on shooting until 4 or something. We were hoping.
I think we hope for earlier.
Yeah, right.
But
What we would like to do, because we were going to be shooting all night, or for a decent chunk of time, um, was to get everything filmed early enough that we could take some time to edit what we had filmed early during the day, and then get some rest. We wanted to get a little bit of rest in before we actually did the evening shoot.
right.
Yeah.
Which did not happen. So
I did not get. Everybody
No.
kept saying, "Brad, you need to get some rest." I'm like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
I literally can't.
Well, and so the other thing we didn't do on Friday night was get a shot list together for Saturday. So that pushed, I think, a little bit of our timetables for everything back, because I think without a shot list, we can all get a little bit too carried away with.
Ooh, let's do that. Ooh, let's do this.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
It's going to be easy. Let's just take care of it. Do one more shot. Yeah, it's no
Which
problem.
it kind of ended up happening, at least for the night shoots. It happened kind of the opposite way, where I created like this sequence of shots that I thought would work in kind of order of the script, and made it way more complicated than it needed to be. And we ended up just being like, all right, first let's do coverage, and then I picked of my specific kind of artistic shots, like which ones I was like, I really want this. I can sacrifice the other ones. I just really want this.
Sure.
That ended up being the kind of pseudo approach that we went with.
And
in
that's
the end.
actually great, because I think having the shot list kind of then tells it informs you of what you need to get versus what you want to get, and then tells you if you really want something, get it. But
Yeah.
you don't have necessarily the time to get everything you want.
Yeah, and I went with we got everything we needed with the coverage approach of like over the shoulders and the wide shots. It was just ones I really wanted to make it not boring, and to intensify this and that, and so that was basically as useful as that shot list got. I eventually like stopped pulling it out of my pocket, because it was like, okay, I remember which shot I really want in this scene, and I don't need the list now.
Sure. So we planned on wrapping up, sometime in the afternoon, as early as we could. And I don't think we ended up wrapping up until closer to 5.
I don't know.
Well,
I got about 2 hours of napping in, though. That's
Did you?
all.
Okay. Then maybe it was a little closer to.
it was like 3 or 4, a little bit earlier with like the main stuff, but we had to do a couple of extra like shots with like Calvin getting enveloped by a green screen, and
Yeah. We were losing light, so at that time we had to go and quick get those shots
Yeah.
before.
but it wasn't like that was somewhat separated from the rest of the main shooting, so like we wrapped up most of it
I think
around 2 or 3.
yeah, I was going to say about 3 o'clock. Yeah, because I think I slept from 5
with
to
just some
7:30.
straggler shots that needed to be done.
So we wrapped that up, and we knew we weren't going to be shooting the rest of the film until after it got dark. So our film was going to be shot around a campfire in the evening. So we had to wait until it got dark out, to the point where we weren't going to be able to see much of what was surrounding the actors. We really wanted it to be darkness around lit people.
Yeah.
And to try and capture that they were. We wanted to try and make it look like they were in the middle of nowhere, I think, but that was
Yeah.
my original idea.
Yeah, that's how I think all of us interpreted it, and I would say most of the shots kind of turned out that way, but there were some where you could obviously see like the house in the background.
The nice thing, though, is
I don't
is
think
that
it detracted though.
No.
the characters were so lit that the eyes naturally go directly to the actors.
Right,
It's
right.
not, you don't say, oh, there's a grill in the background. Nobody sees that.
Right.
Yeah, nobody cares.
And nobody cares. And it's not, the scenes are so dialogue intensive that you're watching the actors. You're not really paying attention to the background. And again, it was dark, pretty dark anyway, so it's not like you could see a lot anyways. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, there were there are lights you can't avoid, but when your neighbors and neighbors have lights on down the
Yeah.
block, you really can't avoid getting some of that stuff in the shot. So
Yeah.
as much as we could, we shot around it. As much as we could, we edited things like that out. We didn't really have time to do more of that. I wish I had, but maybe for our final edit, we'll do that.
It goes back to that's the other issue of shooting that late, less time for the actual editing.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Right. So we get done shooting at 1 a.m. Right around 1. I don't remember if it was a little bit after.
it was a little bit after. But I thought it was pushing 2.
Yeah, I think it was like 1:40.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Walking
okay.
up.
Yeah, I remember being a little bit earlier, but I guess I was pretty
drunk.
tired at that point. So. So I was just, I was running audio. I think I was running audio in my sandals. I like slipped my sandals on to go outside for something really quick, and then I just wore my sandals the whole time we were out there.
Yeah.
Socks and sandals.
And that was about
Stylish.
the point. Like, I could tell you were tired because you were starting to get a little loopy where you're like poking people with the boom.
I was
like,
poking
it in
people with the
people's-
boom. I was like rubbing it against their ears when they were like facing the other direction. I was just fucking with people constantly. I was just like,
it was pretty amusing.
I was just, and
To be honest, though, this thing does feel kind of
yeah,
nice, though.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
smooth.
yeah. So that was pretty fun, especially because I would do it across the fire. So I'd like put the boom up over the fire, and
No
I just
wonder
like,
it smells like fire.
yeah. No wonder why it smells like
It
that.
smells
yeah.
wonderful, though.
Yeah, it smells pretty nice. Sniffing the mic over there. It's Matt.
Although it really says something about me when all of a sudden I see a shotgun mic lowering down towards my face. My first instinct was to open my mouth.
We do have a picture of that.
I think we were all pretty tired at that point. That's what you can blame it on anyways, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So we shot.
tired. Don't worry about it.
Never mind, I have a picture on my phone and be doing the same thing with a fish I caught the previous weekend. So,
What will you do this weekend, Brad?
oh, I don't know. I gotta up,
We'll come up with
I gotta up
something.
the ante.
Yeah. So we've wrapped up shooting around 2 a.m. Regardless if it was closer to 1 or whatever. But 2 a.m. is when we got inside and we really were like, okay, we have everything shot. For the most part, we added a couple of things. Brad, you went out and took some more stuff with your drone, which
Yeah,
was really
didn't-
cool, by the way. It was great to have your drone there for some of Saturday's shooting. We shot a couple of scenes. We really had to cut them down just for time's sake.
Yeah.
But I think those scenes ended up looking really nice. There's one scene in particular where it's kind of a crane shot, and
It looks like a legitimate crane
looks
shot,
like
and
a
that's why I
legit-
was
looks
so freaking giddy about that.
yeah. I mean, I was pretty excited to see those shots. The ones where we actually did one where the drone is chasing one of the characters in the film.
That looks
And
fucking sweet.
it's really really cool. And that flies kind of off to the side, and actually we cut a little bit short on that one too.
Yeah, because
I
we
wanted it
wanted to cut in a tense moment.
yeah. So that ended up being really cool, and we got some more footage of the drone stuff that we'll have to add into the final cut.
Yeah, I didn't make it into this one for
Just
time.
we
but-
ran out of time doing a lot of this stuff. Unfortunately, that seems to be our MO for 48s. Is
There's 1 year where we didn't run out of time.
are you talking about the phone case?
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, well,
Well, it wasn't a particularly complicated one compared to this. Like twice now, I've collaborated with you guys on a 48, and both times it's like magic and
Yeah,
special effects
so
and stuff. It's just
we have to get into that a little bit. We I don't know why, but every single time we say we're not going to do anything with special effects, and every single time we get something with special effects, and we dig ourselves into this hole every year.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know why I pushed so hard for my idea when I knew I was digging my own grave because I was going to be doing it.
Yeah,
See, that's why
one of
we
those
should have
things that
gone
you-
with the
you just,
drinking
like,
one.
You get like, you think, yeah, this would be awesome. You don't really think, fuck, special effects.
Yeah,
I think
this
that
is
was
awesome.
well when we were going through when we whittled it down to about 4 ideas, 4 to 6 ideas, and we started going through and kind of coming up with reasons like, all right, why can't we do this, or why shouldn't but why shouldn't we do this perhaps? And I think that was the only thing I came up with was how are we gonna be able to in the time with effects and.
There's something to keep in mind for future and for anybody listening. You need to find the fine balance between awesome story and like doability, because the magician thing was a really good idea, and it's a really cool concept. But if you really think about it,
yeah,
like that's real tough to do in 48 hours. You know? So that's just something to keep in mind, I guess, for future thoughts, I guess. But,
yeah.
I mean, there's certain things you can do, like text overlay. Like in Phone Case, we had the police building, and we just put police on the building. That's super easy to do.
Yeah.
Anybody can do that. But to have people disappear into another dimension.
And I think the way that we ended up doing it, it looks kind of cool. I do think that it could be polished a little bit more, but for the fact that I don't have a whole lot of visual effects experience.
Yeah, it looks sweet. I mean, it does look sweet.
I think it works pretty well. And actually, something that we even noticed was we were like, this looks really corny when we first did it, and we like looked at it, and I was like, it's kind of cool, but I don't think it's scary. And then we put the sound effects on.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, this is scarier. You add that sound effect, and then suddenly it. Yeah.
So sound has a big thing to play in film.
And so I think that kind of takes us into like some of the other parts of why what we wish we could do better, and on the finishing sides of things, we always tend to have problems with finishing audio. Visual effects is one thing, but audio is another. And,
the fluctuating audio levels was. So I don't know if you were able to clean much of it up, but I definitely noticed that some of the rougher cuts, and it was like,
and in the final cut that we submitted, I do think that it has some of those problems still.
Not as many, but
there was. In the rough cut we had initially, there were a lot of gaps where we'd suddenly lose audio, and I don't know what happened there, but there was like no audio for anything. And so what I did was I basically took some of the fire sounds, especially this is mostly in the evening shots, so I took some of the fire sounds that I recorded with the mic, which I basically just told everyone to shut up for a minute while I recorded some fire. I'm glad I did that because it sounds really cool, and I think I can use those for other things. But that sound effect, I just put that over some of the spots where there was no dialogue, and I amped it up a little bit, and that sounds really nice. I do kind of wish I'd been able to blend that better, because while it sounds great, it just kind of starts and ends abruptly. I mean, it starts or ends with like a scene cut, but it's kind of loud compared to the rest of the audio, and you don't really get that sound throughout the whole film. So I almost wish I could also go back and like blend it throughout the whole thing. So there's, that fire crackling sound, the music, and the dialogue going through through everything. But that's something we'll talk. We'll work more on for our final cut of this film. But
with 2 hours of extra footage.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of footage.
Yes.
So we don't have more scenes or anything, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, it's really just more polishing. We got everything together. We got some music in, we got some audio in, we got some sound effects in.
And so we should real quick throw a shout out to Sal, because I feel really bad about this, and we weren't able to add in the music that Sal gave us in time.
Do we even have time to review? I haven't heard a single note.
Oh, I heard it, but we didn't have time to add it in. I mean, I think we got one piece of music put into the film. So unfortunately, the film is really incomplete without the music, I think. But the music that Sal made is great. It's kind of a Diablo.
You said Diablo meets Lost, which I thought was a really cool idea.
Yeah, so it is that, and it sounds really cool. So I am kind of sad that we didn't get the ability to put that in the first cut that'll be shown at the premiere, but potentially for our final cut we'll do that. And so shout out to Sal. Thanks, Sal, for for putting some effort into that, and I'm sorry it won't make it into the final cut or the initial
cut. I'm sorry, it was terrible. We're not using.
Yeah, sorry, we're not gonna put it in the final cut. No, it was good. So, anyways, so I think we can go into some of the things we wish we'd done, kind of throughout this whole process. So. So things that I think I just have some notes here, so I guess I'll just go through the list. So getting things like establishing shots, that's something that we always seem to miss.
Well, that was what I was trying to do a little bit with like the drone on Sunday morning and stuff too. Granted, I couldn't get a whole lot. But.
Yeah, right. But getting those shots kind of in line with everything else, just so that we have them and we can start doing the editing all together with those shots would be great. Another thing was getting plates for the visual effects, if we're going to do visual effects, which we should not. I'm just going to say that right now again, so that maybe now that it's recorded, we'll listen to ourselves.
Now it's especially good. It's just going to be that much more salt in the wound next time.
Now we can be held accountable by the internet.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no one's going to care.
No.
Or they're going to care too much. One or the other. Yeah. It's one or the
no
other, always.
So yeah, we with our establishing shots, I'm missing my list here. With our plates on the tripods, we didn't do plates on tripods. We did plates handheld, like the rest of our shooting really had been. So unfortunately, that caused us some amount of grief in post, where scenes that should have really been shot on a tripod were a little bit difficult to composite in post for visual effects. So,
well, I mean, I don't know if we're thinking of the same ones, but I think it made it look a little bit better because part of the issue I've had with, these amateur independent films that do the visual effects on a tripod is like when the camera is that still, it makes it that much more obvious that it's a special effect versus if there's a little bit of movement.
So here's the deal. I would agree with that, except that you can take a camera, put it on a tripod, and then add some amount of motion to that shot, right? So yes, but and if you're in not a 48-hour situation, go for it. Don't put it on a tripod. Spend time keying everything. That's fine. But for us in a 48, having to key everything is going to be a nightmare, especially if you don't have someone dedicated working on that, right? If I had Sal here, or if I had Dave here, who were keying masters and could key through that stuff, go for it. Yeah, we could have one person dedicated to doing that, but I feel like that's even hardly worth it during a 48.
More editors, regardless.
Yeah, right. So I think that was the other thing. This was just Matt and I editing for the most part. Petter also was available for editing, and he did get a good chunk of that done as well.
Well, you can only do so much as well. So
yeah, well, and Petter's a little bit less experienced than Matt and I, but we were still able to get a lot of help from him. So shout out to Petter for helping us with that, and then that kind of actually goes into the next point, which is that I think that it was great having Petter start editing earlier. I think we had him start. Yeah, we had him start on Saturday afternoon.
It was after the second scene because he was part of that, and so it was about 1-ish, noonish.
Yeah, so then that was when Petter and I both came back here and started doing some editing. Yeah. And then at that point, Petter actually just was editing pretty much all night. I mean, he edited...
He edited until about 5 o'clock.
Yeah, because I woke up and he was leaving.
Yeah, I went to bed at 4:30 and he was still editing.
Yeah. I think he stayed up... I think he might have been up all the way until like 7. Because...
ridiculous.
And then went to work?
Because I woke...
Dude's a beast, if that's the case.
He might have. I don't know for sure. I guess I need to check with him, but yeah, he might have just done that. But yeah, he woke up. I mean, when I woke up, he was tired and he was like, "Yeah, I gotta leave. I gotta work." I was like, all right, see you later.
Uh,
But yeah, I think with that, I think it was great to have him editing, but I think that actually what would be more useful next time around might be organization before editing. Because if we can get an idea of, what shots we have and what are the best ones, so even just going through and color coding the shots with green, yellow, red, so we know it's good, okay, bad.
well, wasn't Faith keeping notes on some of that as well?
Well, and she was, but I don't know that.
Not every single time.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I think part of that kind of might have fallen on me too, because like when I've tried to do that in the past, and I've like done professional shot list note taking, and sometimes it's a pain to try to figure out which one the director liked the most if they don't effectively communicate it.
That's absolutely true.
I mean, when I got super like excited about like an actor or actress just destroying a line in a good way, I would basically bounce with joy. So it was pretty obvious which shot was the good one.
Yeah.
But
and actually, I want to. This is a good point to shout out to Faith for helping keep track of that audio, because that actually was really, really useful for me when I was trying. So we actually had, Petter came through and did editing early on, but he was kind of listening to the audio and going, "Oh, this is really quiet." When what we really did need to do was just amp that audio up. So unfortunately, that meant I had to go back through and just pull those tracks of audio and match them up with the video. But with what Faith had done, what she would basically had been doing was recording the take and the scene. So scene, take, and
audio
track number. And so we would take that information and we could just go back and say, okay, at the beginning of the video, it's scene this, take this, and go find the audio number that relates to that, pull that down into a timeline, sync it up, and then get the audio and video matched together and put it back in the timeline where we needed it. And so, despite the fact that Petter had gone through and laid it all out, and I'm not giving Petter too much grief here, but I'm just saying that, he wasn't sure how to deal with the audio situation. But we could easily go back and fix that problem of not having the audio matched up after the fact. If we'd done it in advance, and this is kind of going back to the organization thing, so if Petter had done more organization and we had done more of the track laying, we could have kind of eliminated that double step. But I think, again, that's just a learning thing, and we'll do better with it next time. So I think I only have a couple more things here on the audio sheet. And again, Faith, thank you so much for doing the work on it. It would have been nice to have descriptions, and this is not a thing that Faith should be in charge of. It's something that we would need to have to communicate with her, or have a shot list handed to her as well. So when she could see that we were on scene this, take the description from the shot list and put that into the or her tracking sheet, so that we could compare that later and basically say, it was, or even just tell her to communicate. It was, the camera was pointed at this actor and the audio, the mic was pointed at this actor. So we know down the road, we need to look for a shot of, actor A instead of actor B, or we need to look for a shot of actor B and C because they're together in a shot. Maybe it's just easy enough to write down A, B, C on that shot list as she's writing down descriptions and things. But
I think part of that is that you get so rushed.
Oh, absolutely.
That I mean, I have this sheet right here. She has pretty good handwriting, but you can definitely tell things get like rushed. And it is a 48, so you don't have a lot of time. To do stuff like that.
Again,
but that is important to note, because in the long run, it'll save you hours of editing time, and it's always where we've had issues is editing. It's always like, oh shit, we only have an hour left. We just never have enough time.
And actually, that perfectly goes into what I want to talk about next, which is
segue.
Yeah, perfect segues. We've been segueing this whole podcast. So I think what we need to do in the future too is like break. We need to have a break in our editing to review what we have, determine how much time there is left, and go, can we realistically complete everything? No? Okay, what would look best or sound best if it were as complete as it could be given the time we have left? Okay, can we do that? Yes, let's go and do it. So kind of in that bit, it's like checking audio levels. Do we make sure that everything is consistently leveled out throughout the whole film 2 hours before we have to turn it in, so that we can finish whatever last minute tweaks we have with video, and the audio is set. So I think we almost need to like say we're going to go gold with the audio before we go gold with the film, right?
Yeah.
So and it's easy to say here, and it's a lot harder to do. So I'm sure if anyone's listening to this and has already done the 48, they understand where that comes in. And I would really be interested in finding out from other teams how they do some of that, because I've only ever been involved with this team, and we've always kind of just been winging it. I mean, I think that's what everyone feels a little bit when they're on the 48, unless they're from a professional, industry type job,
like
where they do
Care
this
11
stuff.
team.
Yeah, right. There's been the Care 11 team and some other teams that do more filmmaking for a living. I haven't really had a whole lot of an opportunity to do that yet, but that would be one of those things where if you have learned from either school or on the job training or whatever, experience will help you a lot there. So I don't know, do you guys have anything else? That was pretty much my list of items, but
it's just organization.
Yeah.
I think past 3 years we've had Christy, who was our producer, so to speak, and whether she wanted to or not, she kind of took the helm and kind of bossed us around, which is what we need. We're a bunch of creative people. Ian was a producer this year,
and I failed at my job.
Well, the thing is that we're more creative people. We can be that organizational person, and that's what we kind of talked about. And I was like, I want to be involved some way creatively. Like, I don't do the 48 to boss people around, to organize crap.
Mm-hmm.
I can do some of that, and that's fine. But during it, I don't want to be bogged down with that, and I'm sure none of us really wanted to.
And I didn't want to be the bad guy in the situation either, but I wanted there to be someone dedicated to that cause, and I kind of stepped into that, and I really wasn't as dedicated as I should have been. I ended up getting a lot more involved in the creative aspects of it, and I have to do that somewhat with editing, right? But
well, that's just it. Is we need somebody who, that's what they do.
Yeah,
they are creative. They can be creative, just like we can be organizational. But that's what they're good at. That's what they prefer to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody who, that has to be kind of their persona too. I'm not one to sit around and boss people around. Besides Brad, because he's easy to
What are you
push
saying
around.
about Christy?
What?
What are you saying about Christy?
I'm saying she can boss us around. That's what.
Well, she's a mother now. Of course she can.
Yeah, she's got that skill set.
And you got to be bossy to deal with Dave.
Yeah, shout out to Christy as far as she's been great to work with in the past on 48. So she's really kept us on time as much as possible.
Back.
What?
Come back.
Oh, yes, Brad wants you back.
That
We all want you back.
What?
was mad. I want her back too. I like her. I haven't worked with her. I just know her through.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry that was
through
mad.
Dave.
I don't know where Brad came from. Brad's always in my head. That's what it is. Stop grinning at me. Stop it. So yeah, I think organization is a big piece of that, and actually I want to talk a little bit about what we did kind of to prep for the 48 too. So while we were doing all the getting actors and things together too, we were creating documents in Google Drive and communicating back and forth. We had a couple hangout calls, and we met in person to go over some of the things we wanted to try and accomplish, and make sure that we all were on the same page for a lot of that. And we discussed things like how do we want to invite people over for doing script readings, and then how do we want to respond to that? Do we want to send out the information in advance of the 48 to say we've selected these people, or do we want to really stick to what we did, which is calling them on that Friday night? So I think that helped our team just because we were comfortable with what organization we'd done in advance, and I think that's something that's really key is feeling more comfortable. And I still feel every time we do a 48, I still feel way more anxiety at the beginning of the weekend than I do as soon as we get our genre and start working on stuff. That's gone. Yeah. But when we start, before we start, it's always a little bit like on the edge of your seat.
Well, and for me, I was probably a little more worried than you because I wasn't sure if we had done enough preparation and meeting and stuff, because like I don't have kind of the one other team that I worked with the last 2 years to compare it to, but there seemed to be, at least with them, a lot more effort into making sure their entire team meets ahead of time, or at least the majority. They go over, everybody knows what roles everybody's doing. I mean, we were relatively small enough that wasn't a problem. Plus, I wore a shirt that said director just so nobody got confused. But we definitely did less. I don't want to say less, but it seemed I don't know. I felt like something was missing. I couldn't help but worry that something was missing as we went into the weekend. But at the same time, it's kind of like you said. Once we got started, I kind of forgot about that, and I was just, powering through it. But
so lots of 5-hour energies, and what else do we have? So fuel is really important, and that's something we maybe should have touched on a little bit. But we went to Costco before we started the 48 on Friday, and we stocked up on some good stuff. We ended up not eating much of what we bought. I think we still had about half of everything we bought.
That's because we went to Costco.
That's true. There's a lot, but
we wanted to get an assortment. We didn't want to eat bagels all weekend.
That's true. But also, even keeping that in mind, I think there's only so much of any one given thing you can eat in a weekend and
survive.
And and then also at some point your stomach kind of goes, I don't want just more snack food. I need something more substantial than that too.
Well, and I knew for sure that I was gonna run into that problem just because I eat a lot. So it's like I knew it. Like I needed various forms of protein. I kept grabbing stuff with protein in it.
Yeah,
because that's what gives me more energy than.
Yeah, so we had a couple different forms of protein bars, and then some
sandwich meat and
sandwich,
which we never touched the
vegetable tray.
Is it still in your fridge?
It still is in my fridge.
I saw 2 of my beers.
Yeah. Oh, you can have your beers back.
Ian doesn't drink beers.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So. Thank you. I appreciate it. So, yeah. I guess I don't know what else to cover. I think that's pretty much everything that I had. And I think
I want to talk about this actor's Brad guy. We can't cast him again.
Sure.
He sucked.
Yeah.
I was hoping you would disagree with me.
I liked his glare.
I have a good glare. I over the lines that went with the glare.
Non-speaking roles.
Ouch.
Ouch. Let's make Bradley the mute.
No. My team tried to do that last year. It was a massive failure. My character's name was literally Silent Brad.
No, how about a mime? Can you be a mime?
No.
No?
I have no ability to. But if I always go through the wall every time. Through the
really, even if we paint you white and black, you just.
I would just be a white and black Joker.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, there goes that idea.
Well, like the only part that I kind of had a problem with my own acting was I maybe overacted a little bit with my last couple of lines that went with the glare, partially because I was tired and I was way worried about underacting, and I was barely like I almost passed out as soon as we wrapped the shooting. I almost didn't make it to the door. So I like played it up, and then was also trying to match the eccentricity of the character that Denise was playing, because it kind of goes with that a little bit. So that was my only thing with that. Is like I watched it, I was like, you should tone it down a little bit. But that's part of the problem, is like you only have so many shots to take with the 48 on the acting. And
I thought it was the best we've seen you act. I thought.
Really?
There were a line or two that I thought we could have improved on.
Yeah.
As a whole, not you, but as a whole.
The writing as well.
Well, exactly.
Some of it wasn't quite the most natural, but
Yeah, but I thought, because we saw you act in Long Con and everything else, and I thought it was.
Did you guys see any of the Z-Fest ones?
No.
I'd
like to see those, and so I can judge you some more.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. I was judging me pretty harshly on that one too.
On the Z-Fest, or
on the Z-Fest film that I acted in? Yeah.
Was it the Oracle one?
Yeah. That was a very different experience, but I don't know. It just comes with getting more experience.
Well, exactly.
I mean,
that's
act more and more and play more variety of characters, but.
Tom Hanks didn't just become Tom Hanks.
Well,
you have to keep acting.
But again, like with the 48, I mean, it comes down to like if the writing isn't absolutely easy to like identify with, and you only have so much time to get a good take, it's like
you can't workshop
really,
it. You know,
yeah.
We wrote it, we went through it once, we tweaked it, and then there you go. There are your lines. You know, it's not like you could sit down with the actors, run through a rehearsal or something on a stage or in a basement or whatever, and they're like, like almost like Abby did. She was like, "Well, this doesn't make sense." And luckily, she caught that and we fixed it. But if we read through the whole thing as actors, you could have been like, "Well, this doesn't flow right," and we went, "Oh, let's fix that. Let's make it sound right." You know, so. So there's always those challenges with the 48.
And when we were, like, part of me was trying to read it from the actor's perspective, because a lot of times I have read scripts as an actor, and especially, like, if there's, like, actions and stuff that just don't make sense. I cannot picture what the heck they're trying to describe on this piece of paper, which is why, like, a whole bunch of times, like, when I'd sit down and go through the scenes with the actors and be like, all right, so I guarantee this didn't make sense to you, and every time I said that, they're like, yeah, it didn't make sense. It's like, okay, let me explain it to you. So that was kind of a thing. But yeah, that was it was definitely a unique challenge for me, trying to direct, and even just the minimal acting that I did.
It's tough to be Mel Gibson.
Well,
right,
all you need to do is like go crazy, I think. But
he directs an acts. Yeah, he's directs an acts.
I don't know if he directs while he acts.
It's tough to be
Ben Affleck.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. What has he directed?
Oh, that's from Team America, because they're buddies. Have you ever seen Team America?
No. I've seen Good Will Hunting.
Have you seen Team America?
Matt Damon.
I'm not sure who Matt is anymore.
Matt Damon or Ben
Affleck?
No, you.
Oh. Why?
You like Team America.
Yeah.
Was that written by Trey Parker, Matt Stone?
Yeah.
Oh.
I never cared for that movie.
Oh, I love it.
I never was interested in it.
Yeah. I watched it once, many years after it came out.
I watched it like 2 months ago. I was like, not as good as I remember.
Yeah.
But I still like the match.
Well, every time I hear somebody say "America, fuck yeah," it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. I'm like, shut the hell up.
Yeah. All right, we're getting off topic here, so we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you for listening, whoever you are. I'm not sure why you listened to us rant for however long we did.
Hour and 15.
Wow,
minutes.
That's way too long. We were talking about doing this for less than a half hour, so.
I was talking about doing it for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Look at the
So,
stats.
I was derailing us at every opportunity.
If you endured that hour and 15 minutes, then thank you.
Then let us know, and we'll give you $1.
Matt will give you.
I will
And
give you
that-
$1 if you let us
And
know.
Matt will be $1 poorer.
Yes. 'Cause
It's
I'm giving
Matt.
them
There's
a-
one person listening. It's a joke there. See?
Funny guy.